Okay, well, 9:01. So why don't we begin? My virtual background reminds you that we are recording this. It will be posted on our YouTube page. Feel free to leave now, to mute yourself, to take your video away, to change your name. Anything that you would like to do to enhance your privacy, if you feel the need to. And with that, we'll start the meeting. The squeaking in the background is my bird Macon. He will be quiet. So another week. The big news this week from the governor, of course, is the plans for starting to reopen. So the less big news for DEP is that we are going to be kind of continuing on very, very similar to what we've been doing for the past like 8 weeks for the foreseeable future. So while there are industries and activities that are going to start ramping up, much of our work falls into the basic white collar office category. And we can do much of our work from home, and we're going to continue telecommuting while as the state incrementally opens up. That said, we are and will be expanding the amount of field work that we'll be doing, inspections and site visits, things that can be done in the field and can be done in a fairly safe, protected way with the appropriate PPE, maintaining social distance and all of that. Those are the areas we'll start kind of expanding and so you may, I'd be interested to hear kind of how you guys are viewing the opening up, and whether you're, particularly now that construction is the big one, and since construction or site cleanup is often tied to construction schedules, be interesting to hear kind of what your expectations for the coming couple of weeks are, as you hopefully will begin doing additional work. But for the bureaucrats like me that don't get out into the field, I'm going to be sitting in my undisclosed location for some period of time into the future. We've been kind of, we hear and we're seeing that PPE is becoming more available. I think MEMA is making some of its stockpiles available to municipalities. We also got a large delivery from EPA to distribute to wastewater treatment plant operators and public water supply operators to make sure that those that infrastructure can continue on working. We got an order in of PPE for our staff, for the wayside cleanup staff, particularly the ER staff, who are and have been maintaining the usual activities. So we feel that we're in a pretty good place to kind of move ahead. The one thing that does need more work and more thought, and one of the reasons why we're not rushing into the office, is our offices are tight, cramped, small cubicles. Certainly the Boston office has elevators. There are a lot of questions about when we start going back and, at some incremental levels, make sure that the building space itself is kind of adjusted, I guess is probably the best word, to ensure that we can do that safely and appropriately. So we're planning. We're not making any major changes for the time being, but we're moving ahead. We'll see how it goes. So with that, that's my only big news, and I apologize that it's not that great big news. It's kind of anticlimactic, but things do seem to be going well. Work is going on from what I can see on EDEP submittals. We have had kind of continued, kind of hopefully always brief issues with some LSPs with licenses expiring in this period where they've been extended. And I think for the most part, we've been able to get those fixed fairly quickly, quick turnaround. Sometimes there's the occasional other complication where you think it's one problem, but it turns out to be another. So it's not quite as easy to solve. But that seems to be going well as well. So with that, let me open it up to any of the regional staff. I see Steve is here. And I'm not expecting Southeast or Western today with conflicts. But Steve, do you have anything you want to add? Any observations from the Northeast region? You are muted. Well, I'll take that as a no, not at this time. So I'll open it up to you guys. Okay, how are you seeing work changing? Are you anticipating any differences now that construction has started and there may be more activity out there?
Well, we've been working through this. I mean, our field people have been out there, for the duration. Obviously, we expect to see more work going on now that things are officially open. But we've had people out in the field, all the way through with the appropriate protection and so forth. Mm-hmm. We won't be opening our Boston area offices until at least mid-June, and then of course on a limited basis and limited number of people in there. Fortunately, we're only on the second floor, so we don't. Most of us don't have to worry about elevators.
Now speak for yourself.
That's David. I very carefully said most of us. That was intentional.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'm kind of happy that last year we moved down from the 6th floor to the 3rd floor in wayside cleanup. So we have a better option for managing the stairs. Anybody else want to talk about it? Kind of how you're doing?
This is Elliot. I got a question on submittal of reports that are too large to upload. Is the office open to receive, the CD?
There is a protocol for going in and getting and distributing mail. Yes, so it's that does work. If possible, it would be better to split it up into individual files and submit it that way. And you could always submit the executive summary in the first section with whatever the appropriate transmittal form is for that report, and then submit the subsequent sections using the miscellaneous upload form.
Okay, yeah, I'll probably do that.
Yeah.
Relative to construction starting up, we've, like Larry, we've had people out doing field work borings and explorations under appropriate protocols. And some of our construction sites in Boston are starting up, and you really have to pay attention to the COVID-19 health and safety protocols, particularly for your own subcontractors and for the general contractor. There's a lot of liability flow down and flow up as to who's responsible. Mm-hmm. And we heard that if, you could be held responsible for one of the other contractors. So just double check on all your COVID-19 health and safety plans.
Have you found that the subcontractors and others coming onto the site are kind of observant of precautions? Or
yeah, everybody seems to be pretty focused on complying with the rules.
Good.
And I was going to echo what Larry and Elliot have said as far as working in the field, except that our offices have been are going to be closed at least through July.
Yeah, well, that all sounds kind of similar to us. We are having some of our contractors, start going out for the projects that we're funding and overseeing, and they've been doing some necessary work over the last couple of months. But the things like routine monitoring, we're starting that up, and we're dealing with the same issues of the contractors and subcontractors, and making sure that the health and safety plans are updated and that they're observing the necessary precautions. So similar issues. I was curious about how well people are abiding by it. We had one apocryphal story about somebody making a comment that, well, we're going back to work as normal, and I was hoping that was just a overgeneralization, and not kind of dismissal of all of these precautions. But we're going to make sure.
Guy carrying an AK-47, Paul, or just a sort of normal worker? The guy carrying an AK-47 when he said that?
Normal worker, no red hats, no AK-47s, no.
I'm seeing one of our construction sites, which has one of the the big GCs. They're putting in separate stairways into the excavation, wash stations, hot water for washing. They're really taking it seriously. I was impressed.
Good to hear. So Matt asks, do we anticipate some DP staff will continue working from home indefinitely, similar to general business world? That was Matt Hackman. Hi, Matt. And as I mentioned before, certainly those of us who are more office oriented will be working from home. I don't like the word indefinitely. But it probably is appropriate. We're not rushing back, and it's not if we can do the work from home and be aware of and accommodating for staff that have concerns. But for the Boston office, it's coming. How do you get into the office? I've been going in once a week to do the mail, and the first 6 weeks or so were wonderful. I could breeze down 93, and people were passing me at 85 miles an hour, in Somerville on 93. There was just no traffic. I went in 2 days ago, and traffic is picking up. It certainly wasn't anywhere near what it usually is, but traffic is picking up. The Boston Common Garage was not full, but a lot more cars there. And at some point, driving in is going to be less convenient. And if everybody comes back, taking the subway and taking the MBTA would be of concern for a lot of people. So because of people caring for children, because people caring for elderly parents or relatives, concerns about the working environment in the office and how that gets adjusted, and the commuting, particularly if you have to commute on the T, all points to the direction of that indefinite word, that if there's no reason to rush back and we can do the work remotely, then we're going to continue doing it. So a question, I sent an email yesterday regarding LRA timelines. Could you please provide some insight on that? So the answer to that is I haven't had a chance to go through my emails yet, so no, but I will.
We did receive that. We have a draft response to that, and Paul, it's in your inbox.
Good.
But I think by next week, we should be able to answer that question and share it.
Yeah.
Perhaps this was asked and answered last week, which I missed, but any projection on when the regs are coming out, the revisions?
Liz, you want to give an update on the regs?
Well, we're still working on it, and I think when we last spoke about it, we expected to have them out in the fall now.
Okay,
And that's building in the review timelines once it leaves our office and goes up to EEA and ANF.
thanks.
Yeah. So anything else you want to share?
Hey, Paul, this is Marilyn. Good morning.
Hey, Marilyn.
Just an observation relative to construction restarting. As the COVID-19 and construction ban hit, the quantity of soils going to reclamation sites under the COM15 dropped off significantly, and just starting to see that turn around a little bit. It'll probably lag quite a bit, but it's just, you know, one aspect of the program that has really slowed down and is now starting to turn.
Yeah, well, considering how much of that volume probably comes from Boston construction activities.
Yeah, Boston and Cambridge are big, big generators.
So did Cambridge construction shut down like Boston did, or just it
For a
did?
while, yeah.
'Cause I couldn't tell as I drive down through 93, all of the work that's being done on the Green Line extension and the buildings going up in Leechmere. Couldn't tell whether there was any activity over there. Because of course, yeah, 85 miles an hour. I was being passed at 85 by other people.
Yeah, unintended consequence of those 85 mile an hour is, I think the statistics are that there are fewer motor vehicle accidents because of less traffic, but there's more fatalities.
Yeah, that's what I've heard, and we've been keeping off the road other than the trips to Market Basket and then going down into Boston once a week.
That's because there are too many rookies now doing 85 miles an hour as opposed to experienced people.
Yeah, not those experienced drivers among us who can do 85 no problem.
Follow up on the soil management point. We had some questions from the contractors before things restarted about how do you hand out paperwork, the bills of lading and the material shipping records if you're trying to social distance. Has anyone else thought that through? You're putting them in plastic bags with one of those grabbers, just give it to people.
Many things that I've heard is that it does not stay that long on paper, and if you're wearing rubber gloves when you're handling, is there a need to? I mean, that's what I've done, is accepting something from someone is using rubber gloves and then disposing those gloves.
What do you do with your mail when it comes?
I hold it by the corners, I put it in the garage, I leave it there for a day, and then I open it.
Yeah, for DEP, the mail gets moved up from our mail office, left until I get in there for some period of time, and then I go in with gloves, open it, scan it, send it out electronically to people, and then put it in a big box on the floor. So, yeah, I think wearing gloves and as Troll said, in the spectrum of where the risk is coming from, yes, there is some incremental risk associated with the paper, but I think wearing gloves and being cautious mitigates that pretty easily.
And then I still do wash my hands for a good long time after that.
I went to a couple places yesterday where you were greeted at the door and they sprayed you with hand sanitizer. Yeah, which I thought was a nice touch. Yeah. And they actually, there was some guy who when I stopped to be sprayed, just kind of continued walking oblivious to it, and they tracked him down and sprayed him. So the hand sanitizer is also a good, constant. Well,
Where are people buying gloves? I'm still having trouble. I mean, I have a supply.
Amazon.
Where?
Amazon.
Are you getting them from Amazon?
Yeah.
All right.
I tried Harbor Freight, which is where I usually get them when I'm working on cars and stuff. They're out of them. But Amazon, I had to go to several sites before I could, several vendors before I finally found one that had them reasonably available. And that was like a week.
Okay. I'll try it again. Thank you.
So you're having trouble, do you have normal vendors that you work with for PPE, for masks and gloves?
The other folks in my office have been buying that. At first we were having trouble. Now we are getting supplies.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to require our staff to wear medical masks in the office, which we will, apparently they've found some and we'll be distributing to our staff. But I think gloves have been tough to come by.
Okay, another. Matthew has a comment about speeding. And note that Lowe's had a lot of gloves last week. So I think that may be a kind of store by store and delivery by delivery basis. Whether it's gloves or masks or flour and yeast, if you happen to be there at the right time after they've restocked, you can get it. So it's probably worth, if you're driving by a Lowe's or a Home Depot or any store that might have that, stop in and see if they've gotten a recent delivery. More comments, more thoughts. Okay, well, if not, then we'll call it quits for the week. Larry, do you want to choose a theme for next week?
Oh gosh. Other than baked goods, huh? I don't. I'm just temporarily at a loss, Paul. We could talk about books. Books that we've recently read.
Okay, there you go. Come prepared to hold up or talk about or at least identify what you've been reading during.
I've been reading it. You can't just have the book and not have been reading it.
Because Larry will quiz you on it.
That's right. There will be a short quiz.
Okay, well, have a good rest of the week. Remember, Monday is a holiday. So take that day and rest and relax.
How do we know which day is Monday?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, well, just take a random day and call it Monday, call it Memorial Day. And that will work too. Okay, see you next week.
Thanks,
Take
Paul.
care, everybody.
Take care, everyone.
Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.